I have a tradition. Anyone who's taken a trip with me has taken part. At the end of the trip, we go around the circle and everyone shares their top 3 moments. You can't share 2 things or 4 things, it's got to be 3. And it's always fascinating, even though we were on the same trip, everyone's list is different. We laugh, sometimes we cry as we share. I listen close, I ask clarifying questions. I learn a lot about people and what they value as they share their most memorable moments and what made the biggest impact. Now, I have a reason behind the tradition. I want to seal the memory. I don't want you to forget what happened, how you felt, or what God spoke. There's something about choosing the top moments and sharing them with others that turns a memory into a milestone. There's something special, powerful about remembering. My office is filled with things that by themselves aren't very special. But the memories they represent are very, very special. This putter was given to me by my good friend, Jim Rogers, before he passed with Parkinson's. And when I pick up this putter, I remember all the times Jim and I played together, and I remember all the putts that he made. One time, Jim and I were playing in a tournament near Tampa, and we were matched against our previous pastor, Pastor Garrison, and his friend David. Match was tied. 16th hole was a long par 4 with water on the right. And as to be expected, I hit my approach shot in the middle of the lake. And Jim hit his on the right edge of the fairway, and then it just trickled down into the water, and the ball was partially underwater. We got to the ball. I said, Jim, we're going to have to take a drop and a penalty stroke. He said, we're not going to do that. He said, if we do that, we're going to lose the hole. If we lose the hole, we're going to lose the match. We're going to play it. Now, we were in Florida, and there were alligators in the water. And I said, Jim, I'm not going in that water. I don't care if we lose the match. I don't want to lose a leg. So we stood there and argued back and forth. Finally, Jim, just mad at me, took off his shoes and socks, rolled up his pants, got in the water, while I bravely watched for alligators. Jim hit the shot, water splashed all over him, and the ball stopped maybe a foot from the hole. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me and walked off. Picked up this putter, made the putt, and we won the match. I had the honor of playing Jim's last round of golf with him. He was already moving slow with Parkinson's, and one afternoon, I went out to hit balls at Stone Links, and Jim was on the driving range, and he said, my doctor says I should do this every once in a while. So we just hit balls together for a while, and I don't know which one of us came up with the idea, but we decided we'd play one last match. Just he and I on the golf course. He said, this will probably be my last time on the course. Let's see what you got. And that day, I beat Jim for the one and only time in my life. And you better believe I trash talked and celebrated. That's right, I celebrated beating an almost 70-year-old man with Parkinson's. And I only beat him by 1 stroke. This putter is special to me. Not because I don't know if it has any value, but because of all the memories associated with that putter and the friendship it represents. This pile of sand sits on another shelf in my office. It's sand from the beach in Destin, Florida. There's nothing special or unique about the sand. It's the story, it's the moment it triggers that makes it special. At our very first deepening, our camp for students, we ended up in small groups for prayer on the beach. And we filled this vial with sand so it would always remind us of the theme verse for that week. And every time I look at this vial of sand, Psalm 139, 17, and 18 comes to mind. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. I don't know how many grains of sand are in this bottle, but God thinks about me more than this. And that sand triggers a memory in a verse that's life-giving and encouraging. These basketball tickets sit on another shelf in my office. Dallas Mavericks versus the Los Angeles Clippers, March 7th, 2016. They're just pieces of cardboard, but the memory they stir is special. Pastor Tyler and I had a lifelong dream come true. We were guests of a friend of mine for just the ultimate moment if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan or if you love basketball. We sat front row on the floor with our feet on center court for a game between the Mavericks and the Los Angeles Clippers. We were beyond excited. Before the game, we ate in a private dining room, and we got to meet one of the owners. We got to try on his championship ring. We got to go to the locker room. We met coaches and players, the play-by-play announcer. All the team officials came by to meet us. My friend introduced us to everyone. Pastor Tyler has been a Mavericks fan his whole life. As a matter of fact, his youngest son is named Maverick, and he's named after the basketball team, which means Pastor Tyler married a good woman. And for the first half of that game, the score was close. And then one of the best players in the NBA, Chris Paul of the Clippers, took over the game. The Mavericks didn't have anyone who could stop him. Watching, you could see his confidence growing with each made shot. By the end of the third quarter, Chris Paul had a swagger about him. He knew he couldn't be stopped. He knew he was going to win. You could see it in the way he walked. You could see it in the way he talked. You could see it in the way he dribbled. Now, the whole game, Pastor Tyler trash-talked Chris Paul. He's always saying stuff, we're going to beat you, all this stuff, on and on. It didn't seem to have much of an effect on Chris Paul. He just kept scoring. Our favorite moment, even though we're Mavs fans, was when Chris Paul made a long three-pointer, and after he made the three-pointer, he turned around and he ran right at us, and he looked at Pastor Tyler and just one word, bam. That's right, Pastor Tyler got trash-talked by Chris Paul, and he had nothing to say after that. This rock sits on yet another shelf in my office. It's an ordinary rock until you know the story behind it. The late 1930s, an Assembly of God missionary from Arkansas by the name of J.W. Tucker felt God calling him to the Congo. Fast forward 20 plus years, in August 1964, J.W. Tucker and his family were leaving to return to the Congo for their fifth four-year term after spending a year in the States raising financial support. Several men from our church met J.W. at the airport and prayed with him and begged him not to go back to the Congo because it was so dangerous. Less than a week after returning, their village was overrun by rebels and captured. The Tuckers were cut off from communication with the outside world. No word reached the United States until an escapee brought word that as of October 7th, our missionaries were alive and well, but under house arrest. J.W. Tucker was among a group of Europeans and Americans who were being held in the Catholic mission, apparently to be used as political bargaining chips. When paratroopers landed in the Congo to stop the rebels, they began to retaliate with killings and beatings and torture. And J.W. Tucker was killed by the rebels on Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, 1964. One day before paratroopers reached Paulus to rescue him. J.W. Tucker was beaten to death. Survivors reported that his beating took 45 minutes, one stroke at a time, with each stroke coming after his groaning from the previous stroke ended. It was a brutal and vicious death. That's the story of J.W. Tucker, a man who gave his life for the gospel, a man so consumed with love for the people of Congo that he returned in spite of the danger. J.W. Tucker was the first and is still the only Assembly of God foreign missionary killed for the sake of the gospel. So where does the rock come in? A few years ago, I went to that place where J.W. Tucker was held and killed. And as I stood there, I imagine what it must have been like that day as JW gave his life for the gospel. And I knelt down on the spot where he's beaten to death. And tears pouring down my face, I prayed, Lord, give me that kind of commitment, that kind of willingness to sacrifice. Forgive me for being soft and selfish. I never wanted to forget that moment. And so after my prayer, I leaned down the place he was beaten, and I picked up a rock. And this rock reminds me of the sacrifices that some people are willing to make for the cause of Christ. From time to time, I think I'm sacrificing. I give what is for me a particularly big offering, or I miss a family moment because of a crisis. And when I think I'm sacrificing, I look at this rock and I realize my so-called sacrifice pales in comparison to what some have sacrificed for the cause of Christ. Outside those doors is a wall dedicated to our church history. It's filled with pictures from our past. That wall is a spiritual marker. It's a reminder of the faithfulness of God through the generations of believers at First NLR. That wall is a reminder of what God has done and what God will continue to do through this church family. Remembering God's blessings reminds me of my responsibility to help create the kind of place where the hurting find healing, where the lonely find a family, where the overwhelmed find peace, where the addict find deliverance, where the person without a future discovers a purpose in Jesus, where the lost find a Savior, where the forgotten are welcomed by a healthy and loving church family. All those things stir memories and stories that remind me of God's faithfulness. I don't ever want to forget His love or the moments we've shared together. I never want to forget God's blessings, and I never want to stop sharing them with others. For you, it might not be like me. It might not be an object. It might be something else that reminds you of God's protection and God's power.
A few years back on 4th of July, Elliot and I were right here in our living room floor, and we were sitting at the coffee table just kind of playing with toys, and there were fireworks going off outside, and it was time for me to put Elliot to bed. And so we walked to his bedroom, and I tucked him in, we prayed, and as soon as I said amen and got up off the floor, I heard this loud bang. I mean, it was really loud. Like, I didn't know what had happened. At first, I thought maybe a firework had gone off like close to our back deck, or it was so loud that I thought maybe one fell through the chimney and just exploded. Chelsea was already in bed at the time, and she got up, and we were looking around trying to figure out what had happened. We looked and looked and looked, and we thought, well, maybe something fell off the wall. Nothing. We couldn't find anything wrong. Well, the next day, Elliot, while he was in the kitchen and Chelsea was making breakfast, Elliot found a bullet hole on the bottom level of our floor, of the wall, and he said, Mommy, what's that? And Chelsea realized what it was, and she kind of did a little detective work, and she stuck a rod in just to see where the hole was pointing, and sure enough, a bullet had traveled in through our walls into our home, and it hit our coffee table in the exact place where Elliot and I were playing. And the loud bang we heard was the bullet crashing into the coffee table. It busted into multiple pieces, and we found one piece of the bullet underneath the couch, and we found the other piece in the ceiling of our roof. That night, we learned a valuable lesson, one that I think we knew, but it was just reiterated to us. God's protection is so important. And we understood how God was protecting us that night because Elliot and I were sitting in that exact place right where the bullet hit. To this day, the shard of the bullet that is in our ceiling, we left it there so that we could always have the story, the reminder of how God protected us that night.
Joshua chapter 3 tells the story of Joshua and the people of Israel crossing the Jordan River and into the promised land. God parted the waters so they could safely pass. So in case you missed last weekend, let me just real quickly catch you up. After being delivered from captivity and slavery in Egypt, the Israelites started toward the land God promised, the promised land. But because they're whining, they're complaining, they're griping, their disobedience, the Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years. There's a lesson in that. Whining, complaining, disobedience will keep you from God's promise. That's a message for another day, and we will get to that. When Moses, their leader, died, God raised up Joshua. It was an incredibly intimidating assignment to follow the guy who had led Israel in so many miraculous moments. But God made a promise to Joshua. You don't have to fear. As I was with Moses, I will be with you. The people rallied around Joshua. Under his leadership, they quickly moved towards the promised land, but they had one final obstacle in their way, the Jordan River. Joshua heard from God, and then he gave the people some unusual instructions. He said to the Israelites, "Come here, listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you all of your enemies. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose men from the 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and will stand up in a heap." It didn't make sense, but after 4 decades of disobedience, the Israelites finally obeyed God, and the result was a miracle. When the priests entered the Jordan River, which was at flood stage, God stacked up the water 18 miles away in a town called Adam. And the Israelites crossed the once mighty Jordan River on dry ground. Their sandals didn't even get muddy. The Bible doesn't describe what they did as they crossed the river, but you can imagine. They were dancing, they were singing, they were shouting, they were celebrating. After 40 years in the wilderness, they were finally crossing into the promised land. It's a remarkable moment that gave the Israelites bold courage and frightened their enemies. And today I want to look at what they did right after the crossing. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe. And tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priest stood, and to carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight." So Joshua called together the 12 men he'd appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, "Go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you." Joshua picked 12 big guys, and he said, "Go right where the priests were standing and bring the biggest rocks that you can carry. And in the future, when your children ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever." That altar wasn't built to honor Joshua, but to honor God. It was an altar of remembrance. It was a reminder of God's power, God's direction, God providing for his people, and the blessings that follow obedience. So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood. Joshua took those 12 stones and he made an altar, a reminder of a powerful moment. And I imagine when future leaders face a huge challenge, they would go to that altar to have a quiet time with God. And their faith would be built as they knelt down to pray and they remembered what God had done for them. That God had brought them through an unbelievable situation with his strength and his power. For generations, when Israelites were overcome with fear or uncertain about the future, they walked back to the banks of the Jordan, to a place where a simple memorial was made from 12 stones, but not any stones. Rocks from the bottom of the middle of the river. And they stood there and they looked at the rocks in the river and they said, I know this situation seems impossible, but do you remember what happened here? There was no way, but God made a way. This is it. This is the moment that I realized the strength and the power of our God. We serve the God who stacked the river at flood stage and let us walk across on dry ground. I picture parents and grandparents taking their children to the edge of the river and saying, look right there. And the kids saying, Grandpa, what's that? That just looks like a pile of rocks. And Grandpa would answer, son, that is more than rocks. Let me tell you what happened here. And the kids would run their fingers over the rocks made smooth by centuries of moving water. And Grandpa would tell the story to his grandson, who would one day tell the story to his grandson, who would one day tell the story to his grandson. That pile of rocks was much more than a pile of rocks. It was a reminder that when your circumstances say no way, God can still make a way. He is bigger than your circumstances. And when everything around you is uncertain, God is certain.
You are here, you're moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. Come on and sing it. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. Oh, I worship you. Worship you, Lord. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You are here, turning lives around. Oh, I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. We call you Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Oh, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Yeah, that is who you are. 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 Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Oh, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. That is who you are, Lord. That is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. My healer's who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you
He makes a way where there seems to be no way. Now, I want you to remember, it was God who instructed Joshua to collect the rocks and build an altar. So why did God do that? Did he just want his people to worship after they entered the promised land? Maybe. But I think the bigger reason is God knows us. He knows our human tendency to forget and to only focus on what's right in front of us. God knew that when the Israelites faced their next challenge, they might get so focused on the challenge that they would forget his faithfulness in the past. How much are we seeing that around us right now in our nation as people are so focused on what's in front of us and what's going wrong that they forget that God has always been faithful and will always be faithful, that he has not changed. God told Joshua to build not just any altar, but an altar taken from the very things that once served as an obstacle. The rocks from the Jordan River became a symbol of God's faithfulness and his power. When God gives you a great victory, mark the moment. Make a remembrance. Take a picture. Put it where you'll see it every day. Write in your journal, scrapbook. Pick up something. Anything. Something to remind you of God's help and power and deliverance. Build an altar. It doesn't have to be something expensive or special. The things I have in my office aren't special. It's not about the object, it's what they represent. The Israelites picked up 12 rocks. Now, I wanted to give everybody today 12 boulders. So you could build an altar in your living room or your yard, but we couldn't figure out how to get the rocks here. And even if we got them here, we couldn't figure out how we were going to load them in your cars to get them home. So I decided to give you the first rock, the start of your altar. And on your way out today, there's a pile of rocks by the door. And I want you to pick up a rock, the first rock in your altar. And when God does something for you, add to your altar. You say, so I'm going to have rocks in my backyard? I don't know. You might put them in your kitchen. You might put them in your, like me, in your office. And then when someone comes and says, what's with the pile of rocks? You say, oh, no. That's not just a pile of rocks. That reminds me of the place where Jesus set me free. That reminds me of the moment when God set me free of addiction. That reminds me, let me tell you the story of when God healed my body. Let me tell you the story of when he saved my son. See, to you, that's just a rock. To me, that's an altar. That's a memory. And every time God does something, add to your altar. Now, you say, do I have to stop at 12? No, use as many rocks as you want. as a testimony to the power of God. Then, when you're facing uncertainty, when fear of the unknown begins to grip your heart, go back to that spot. I walk around my office. You might look at the picture, read your journal, pick up that rock, and remember the God you served. Remember when he healed you. Remember when he protected you. Remember when he blessed you. Remember when he spoke to your heart. When you look at that, remember all the things God has done for you, and it'll build your faith for what God's going to do for you. Remember.
In the darkest hour, when I cannot breathe, fear is on my chest, the weight of the world on me. Everything's crashing down, everything I have known. And when I wonder if I'm all alone, I remember, you have always been faithful to me. I remember, even when my own eyes could not see, you were there, always there. I will lift my eyes, even in the pain, above all the lies. I know you can make a way. I've seen giants fall, I've seen mountains move, I've seen waters part because of you. I remember, you have always been faithful to me. I remember, even when my own eyes could not see, you were there, always there. I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about your goodness, goodness. I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about your goodness, goodness. I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about your goodness, goodness. I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about, I can't stop thinking about your goodness, goodness. I remember, you have always been faithful to me. Yes, I remember, even when my own eyes could not see, you were there, always there with me.
And you might sing it this way. Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Sing it with me. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. He is a faithful God. Never forget God's faithfulness, His love, His forgiveness, His mercy, His grace. When you remember all God has done for you, it's just natural to thank Him in worship. When we remember everything He's done for you, you're able to take your eyes off all the junk and all the crud around you. You're able to tune out all the mess, and instead just focus on the faithfulness of God and His mercy and His kindness and His goodness to you. You remember when He's performed a miracle for you, and that gives you confidence and faith to pray for others to receive that same kind of miracle. You remember when He supernaturally provided for you, and so somebody in great need, you have confidence to pray with them. You remember when He set you free from addictions, and so you can pray with others who are trapped in addiction. You remember when He healed your body, so you can pray with others so their body will be healed. There is power in remembering. On the other hand, when you forget what God has done, when you do that, then you neglect to extend His mercy and love and forgiveness and kindness to others. There is a danger in forgetting. Here's the danger. When we forget where we were, we take for granted where we are. Remember, may we never forget prayers answered. In moments when we encountered God, may we never forget battles fought and victories won and enemies defeated and addictions overcome. May we never forget His power. And whatever your spot is, for me it's shelves in my office. You go back and you look. I remember, God, what you did for me. I remember your faithfulness. I remember how you brought me through, and you are still the same God. And if you brought me through once, you can bring me through again. Your power has not changed. It's still the same. Listen to me, followers of Jesus. It is time for us to quit hanging our heads and tucking and running in fear, and remember that God is faithful. And the same God who helped the Israelites cross the Jordan River, He's the God we serve today. God, would you help us? Help us to never forget. Lord, forgive us when we get so consumed with what's going on in the world around us, so consumed with our own troubles that we forget your faithfulness. Lord, take us back. Take us back to a pile of rocks that remind us that you stopped the Jordan River. Take us back to moments in our old life, in our own life, Lord, where we remember what you did for us, and let that remembering build our faith and confidence and trust in you. God, we thank you that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. You have never left us, and you will never leave us. You have never forsaken us, and you will never forsake us. You are still a faithful, power, mighty, delivering God. And so we put our trust in you. Lord, thank you. When it seemed like there was no way, you made a way. When it seemed like there was no chance for us to make it, you came through. And so we worship you today. Thank you, Jesus, that you have always made a way and you always will make a way for your people. We worship you in Jesus' name.